listening to the Max Sports Daily. Your source
gonna
for
jump
fresh
straight into it.
take on all the latest headlines from the world of sports. And now,
I'm
here's
not
your
talking
host,
during the intro.
George Bennett. You're listening to the Max Sports Daily. Your source for a fresh new take on all the latest headlines from the world of sports. And now, here's your host, George Bennett.
Welcome to the show, everybody. Today is May 5th, 2017. Happy Cinco de Mayo to everyone who celebrates. But gotta get into the action from the NBA last night to start off with. After what was quite possibly the greatest game 2 of all time between the Celtics and the Wizards, it was followed up by a pretty lackluster game 3. I mean, all the like chippiness and physicality and things like that weren't missing from this game, but it was nowhere near as close. Washington on paper has been kind of dominating this series, and this was the first game where that sort of equated into a win for them. They ended up winning 116-89 over the Celtics at home. Not really much to say. The bench for the Wizards, you had a lot of guys come in, put in solid minutes, especially Bogdanovich, the guy that got in the trade from the Nets. It's got to be weird if you're Bogdanovich coming from the Nets. You were just on what's quite possibly the worst franchise we've ever seen assembled, and then you move on to a playoff caliber team. But yeah, he came up huge with 19 and 10 rebounds to go with that. So it's always curious. You wonder why he's not utilized more. I know in game 2 he barely played at all. And then what was separating the Celtics this whole time was their bench was highly outperforming the Washington bench. But not in this one. Marcus Smart is the high scorer in this one with 9, but his plus 9 ends up being negative 19. So not the greatest performance out of him. Isaiah Thomas, 13 points in this one. 3 for 8 from the field, 0 for 2 from 3. It's not every day you see someone drop 40 points less than they did in the previous game. Yeah, it was not pretty for Isaiah Thomas on the road, or any of the Celtics for that matter. Avery Bradley posting a whopping negative 25 in the plus minus column. So it was pretty much a rough night for the C's in DC, but. The big story out of this one was a couple hard screens by Kelly Olynyk, forced a retaliation by Kelly Oubre Jr., and Kelly Oubre Jr., after only playing 5 minutes in this one, was ejected after he got up after one of the screens ran over and just pushed Kelly Olynyk to the ground. So yeah, this series is definitely getting pretty highly contested. Anybody who watched Game 3 knew something like this was going to happen. I think there was I think Kelly Olynyk ended up getting a flagrant 1 on it, if memory serves. But yeah, it was an immediate ejection for Kelly Oubre, and it remains to be seen. He might even receive maybe a 1-game suspension for it, because it was completely intentional. There's no getting around it. But I don't know how the officiating goes in this series from here on out is going to be very interesting to look at. That's going to be brought up countless times, like with how physical this series has been and how much the refs have been letting them just play. Uh, but yeah, I definitely tuned into that game, as I probably will every game in that series, just because it's probably the most interesting one going on, given the fact that I have no idea what's going on between the Spurs and Rockets. I'm just left scratching my head every time I watch a game of that. But yeah, that's definitely probably the most intriguing series. Speaking of which, probably the least intriguing is this Utah Golden State one, and it's like it's pretty much tied with the Cavs Raptors series because both of those are 2-0. I don't see a chance of either the Jazz or the Raptors pulling off an upset. Jazz lose this one 104 to 115 in Golden State. Gordon Hayward does all he can. He puts up 33, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. Rudy Gobert 16 and 16. So it's not like their big guys aren't stepping up. Two solid performances out of their best guys. I'm looking at the box score now. It looks like George Hill did not play, and that sort of confuses me. I was not aware of any injury to him, but I figure without him, he ended up missing game 2 with a toe injury. This was something I was not aware of. But I think without him, that sort of changes the dynamic of this series even more because he's a solid veteran point guard with playoff experience. And like San Antonio, is going to find out probably tonight. That's something that isn't all too common in the league. That's a pretty valuable thing to have as a point guard who knows how to run an offense and get it done and can get you into your offense without much hassle. But if you're going to have to rely on the likes of Shelvin Mack and Dante Exum, who Dante Exum has been, I don't want to call him like an absolute bust, but if I'm being real, calling a spade, he has been pretty much a bust. The fact that he was explained to us as this greatest point guard prospect since I don't know what, and then he just comes out and he can barely even get minutes with the Jazz. Yeah, when you're the third string behind George Hill and Shelvin Mack, and you were I think he was a top 5. He was at least a top 10 pick. I think it's safe to say he was a bust, but yeah, he was the 5th overall pick back in 2014. So I guess there is some more time for him to develop, but how old is he? 21, so I guess it's not completely over for him. I'm not going to call it yet, but he's trending in that direction. But that's one of the things you got to find time that, you got to find stuff like this to talk about between the Jazz and Warriors, because I haven't even mentioned the Warriors yet. It was just business as usual for them. Yeah. The Warriors are good. I don't know what else to say about them at this point. 6-0 throughout the playoffs so far. Combined, the Warriors and Cavs are 12-0 in this playoffs. And here's the real question. Between the two of them, will they even drop 4 games on the way to the finals? because I don't see any team stopping either of these two, and they haven't lost a game yet, and both of them are halfway there now. So, could a San Antonio or Houston possibly take two or three from Golden State? I don't think so. I think whichever team advances from there, like, probably goes down at 5, max 6. And between Boston and Washington, I see the same scenario. Toronto is probably, if they don't win tonight, they're getting swept. I think that's pretty obvious. If they can't get it done tonight in Game 3 is always the ultimate equalizer. It's probably, it's hard to say it's the most pivotal game, but a lot of times the way Game 3 goes, and you could probably make this argument about every single game in the series because they're in a best of 7, they're all so important. But I think Game 3, how a team comes out in Game 3, especially when you're down 2-0, but you're bringing it back home, and there's sort of that desperation because you know if you go down 3-0, it's over. Like, Game 3 is probably where you see, like, okay, this is gonna go on for a while, or it's not. But yeah, Warriors win again. In the NHL, just the Rangers end up tying up their series with a 4-1 victory over Ottawa. So, after it looked like Ottawa had this one pretty handily, like after going up 2-0 at home, they're coming right back home with the series all squared. Like I said, not much intrigue in this series for me, and it was the only series playing last night, so not really much to say on this one. Yeah, this I think by far is the series with the least amount of star power, and for me, being somebody who doesn't follow the NHL laser closely, like it's not much to really discuss here. I doubt whoever wins this will go on to beat the Penguins, especially. In fact, there's one thing we can do. What is the status on Sidney Crosby for Game 5? Although Game 4 is any indication, they don't really need him. So apparently he's back skating at practice, but he has been has not been ruled out for Game 5. I almost read that headline wrong, but yeah. So Sidney Crosby could be back. I know in the past concussions have kept him out of action for longer than most. So, and because he does have that history, they'll probably be extra cautious with him. So looks like Game 5 of that series won't be until tomorrow night because it looks like they got Nashville, St. Louis, and Edmonton and Anaheim playing tonight. So an extra day for Crosby to recover, but if the Caps can't score, it doesn't really matter. What else? Oh, God. We got... So as much as I try to make this a LeVar Ball free show, sometimes you just gotta bring him up because something's going on with the Balls, and Lonzo Ball, I pretty much just I wouldn't say I dislike the kid, but like because of his father, it's hard to root for him. But anyway, it was released yesterday. This promotional video. I took a gander at that. But it was a promotional video for Lonzo Ball's new shoe, which I think is called the the Zo 2. I think that's the name of it. Yeah, or ZO2, something like that. By Big Baller brand. So it's a. I mean, just looking at it, it's not the worst looking shoe in the world. I mean, I would definitely wear it, but the news about it is that it comes at a suggested retail price of $495. Now, everybody's done all the comparisons and whatnot, and to Michael Jordan, because when everybody thinks of expensive gym shoes, Michael Jordan, obviously with his Jordan brand of Nike, is the first thought that comes in your head. But this basically blows Jordans out of the water. Like most Jordans come, I'd say, around the $150 price tag, maybe a little more. Like usually you can get them for less than $200. So you're talking about you could probably buy 3 pairs of Jordans for the price of this Lonzo Ball shoe. Just looking at it, I don't get why they're called the Zo 2, like, or ZO 2. When was the first one? And there's this whole Big Baller brand LeVar Ball's trying to push on people. Along with the $495 gym shoes, they also have a $220 pair of flip-flops to go with them. So for around $700, you can get the whole set. Or if you want to pay $995, you can get them actually autographed by Lonzo Ball. So yeah, a lot of people are up in arms about this, saying this is a ridiculous price, and I personally wouldn't pay for them, and I'm always one. Hey, let the market dictate it. If people aren't willing to pay that much, it'll either cease to exist or they'll lower the price. Like those are the only 2 options, but. This doesn't surprise me at all, because Big Baller brand you have to think about is something like the little upstart that LeVar Ball is trying to get going, and it's not going through Nike or Under Armour or Adidas or something of that nature, something already established. Here's what you're paying for when you drop that $495. You're not just paying for the shoe and the material and all that. You're paying basically the startup cost of Big Baller brand, essentially. They don't have an already functioning distribution, supply chain management. Like their name's not like synonymous with athletics like a Nike would be. There's so many things, so much overhead that they have to cover, and they're probably selling these shoes at a loss, quite frankly, even at the ridiculous price tag of $500. Like when you consider they have no relationship with retailers, they have no private distribution networks. It's like when you think of a company like a Nike, like there are people who are paid millions just to analyze every aspect of making the product, from design, from just when the idea for a shoe is first conceptualized. That entire process has been streamlined over the course of decades. And this is all something like a Big Baller brand doesn't have at its disposal. So you got so many people with so much cost benefit analysis and things like that that get a Nike shoe, which could easily sell for hundreds and hundreds of dollars, get it down to that like $120, sometimes even $60 price tag you see on a lot of these shoes. Like, and that's not something when you go independent and you try to like, enter this space. I don't see this. I don't see this working out. Like, some people think if Lonzo Ball is really that dude that his father thinks he is, that it'll sell because he's a good player. It's gonna come down to a lot of factors. Is this shoe like durable at all? It's one thing. Like I own quite a few pairs of Jordans. They're pretty much the main shoe I wear. Originally, it was like they were the cool shoe and everybody was buying them. But now, like I don't care about any of that. I get them mostly for their durability. And I know if I wait like a year after they come out, I can snatch them on sale for about $80 to $90. So, and I know it's something of quality. Like it's going to last longer. I know than say other pairs of Nikes even. So, and that's a sort of trust the Jordan brand has built over the course of over 30 years now. I think the original Air Jordan released back in, I want to say, like 85 or so. And obviously, Jordan is the biggest name to do this, so he's the one I'm going to draw comparisons to and all this the most. But you look at even like a Kobe or a LeBron, and it's like their names aren't like, they have shoes out there, but how many people are necessarily going out of their way to buy like some Steph Curry's or something like that? And these are the biggest names in the NBA, like by far right now, and I don't see any of this working out. I don't think LeVar Ball realizes how much goes into creating something like this, and that price point, you can't just it's gonna be too difficult for them to just cut it. Like, I'll just lower the price. They don't have, like I said, they don't have the infrastructure in place. I think that sums it up the best, that all these other companies have. So, and he doesn't have billions of dollars to play with as far as I'm concerned. And oh, Shaq coming out saying, hey, at LeVar Big Baller, real big baller breads don't overcharge kids for shoes. Oh gosh, LeVar Ball just, of course, being who he is. If you can't afford ZO2s, you're not a big baller. So I guess I'm not a big baller because I actually like paying my rent and not just having a pair of like decent looking shoes. But I think for that to really become a thing, it has to perform well enough to outdo like LeVar Ball's incompetence. And for Lonzo Ball to do that, he has to literally come in and change the game of basketball, which I highly doubt is going to happen. I don't, like I've been saying before, he might end up very well being the fifth best prospect at his position in this upcoming NBA draft. But draft combine's coming up in like a week, I think, so we'll be able to get into more of that afterwards. Apparently, Kerry Walsh Jennings and April Ross are the Olympic beach volleyball players are ending their partnership. I don't know. It was so weird for me watching the Rio Olympics and seeing Kerry Walsh Jennings without Misty May Trainer. That was just that's just been our beach volleyball squad for years. The April Ross pairing. It wasn't like I was completely against it, but it just had me. It left me taken aback every time I tuned into the beach volleyball, and it was not. It was not Misty May Trainer out there with Kerry Walsh. It's just some things you expect like clockwork, and we've gotten to the point with a lot of these Olympic athletes where we've been watching, at least people my age, we've been watching a lot of these people like our whole lives. Like Michael Phelps has been in the Olympics pretty much since I've been watching him. You got guys like Usain Bolt, and it's where's the next crop of great Olympians that are just going to define the Olympics from now on? I know this past year you had LeBron James not attend for the USA Basketball, and I mean, how can you really blame him? He was on I think 3 teams already. He was on that '04 team that we don't talk about, the 2008 team and 2012 team. So the Olympics, I guess we got the Winter Olympics coming up next year. I always love to see Team USA hockey. But worst news comes out about Tony Parker. Turns out his injury is season-ending. I almost slipped up and said that in yesterday's show. I keep dipping out of the shot on the webcam, but whatever. Yeah, Tony Parker, I almost slipped up and jinxed it saying it yesterday because I just kind of knew with how he went down that it was pretty much not going to look good for him as far as making it back this playoffs. But you got to wonder if this is just going to be the end for Tony Parker. And I remember it was probably about on the show a month ago. I was talking about Jay Cutler and how it may just be time to call it quits as far as playing, and it looks like he thought the same thing. Apparently he's going to go work at Fox as a commentator. I think this is a pretty good decision by Jay Cutler. Why not just why put up with the nonsense of playing NFL football when he could easily probably succeed much better in the booth. A lot of people are ripping him, saying he's a pretty boring guy and think he won't work out well in the booth. I mean, look at Troy Aikman. He's their lead color commentator. So if boring's what Fox wants, then maybe Jay Cutler fits in well. But you never know. Maybe he ends up being like a Dan Marino, a guy who was like extremely boring during their playing career, but then comes in the booth and ends up being pretty entertaining. We'll see. Cutler versus Romo commentating. That's a matchup I want to follow this next season. Just seeing who could probably put the most like one-liners out there between Cutler and Romo. And as promised, it is our Kentucky Derby preview, which is basically just me reading a bunch of horse names, like I said. Apparently, Classic Empire is the early favorite to win this whole thing. I want to to see a Triple Crown. When was the last time we saw like a legit Triple Crown in horse racing? That's the only thing I ever pay attention to. Is like you watch the Derby, obviously, because everybody watches the Derby. Then you watch the Preakness just to see if the guy or see if the horse that won the Derby wins the Preakness, and then the Belmont. I never watch the Belmont if there isn't like somebody who won the Derby and the Preakness. Unless there's a Triple Crown chance, there's no point. Always Dreamin', Thunder Snow, J-Boy's Echo. And like I said, apparently Classic Empire is 4-1 odds to win this thing. What? Okay, the page I was looking at just crashed. So that's lovely. But I don't get these odds. Like, that's one thing. I never got into like the whole sports gambling thing. Just seems like a way to give away your money, if you ask me. But never really understood how odds work. I assume like 4-1 odds, you have like 1 in 4 chance of winning it all. But like, just looking at all these numbers here, there's no way that all that would add up. Well, maybe it does. I don't know. Irish War Cry. Battle of Midway. I kind of like Battle of Midway. That's a pretty like solid horse name there. State of Honor. Yeah, so at 31 odds, if I was a betting man, I'd put $1 on Battle of Midway. Because that's who I'll be rooting for. But we'll have our post Derby analysis on Monday's show. As much of that as I can do. But I want to thank everybody for watching and listening. And like I said, we'll be back Monday with more Direct Sports Daily.
This has been another episode of Direct Sports Daily. Thanks for listening. And to keep up with the show, follow us on Twitter at the DSD Podcast. Subscribe to us on iTunes, Google Play, or Stitcher Radio. Or visit our website, www.directsportsdaily.com.